Good day, my dear friends and respected viewers. I am Advocate Rahul Mehta, a practicing advocate from New Delhi, and today I am going to give an online lecture from where I had left in part 1 on the topic drafting, pleadings and convincing, and today's part shall be part 2. I have already covered some aspects related to pleadings in part 1, and today I will start with the subtopic object of pleadings. Friends, the object of pleadings is to assist and help the court, or the honorable judge, and the parties to the dispute or the suit in its adjudication. Here the meaning of the word adjudication is the formal judgment, or the final judgment to be given by the judge on a disputed matter. I will reiterate that the function of a pleading is not only for the benefit of the parties concerned to the dispute or the suit, but also and perhaps primarily for the assistance of the court by defining with precision the area and scope beyond which, without the leave of the court and consequential amendment of the pleadings, conflict must not be allowed to extend. Unnecessary delays and lashes should be avoided to streamline the adjudication process and court proceedings. In the best interest of justice, it is always advisable that the counsels or the advocates of both the parties to the suit or the case should act judiciously and should not waste the precious time of the already overburdened courts by filing irrelevant applications to delay the matter inordinately. It is unfortunate that sometimes, on the advice of their clients or otherwise, a minuscule number of advocates or counsels, especially who are defending the case for the defendant or respondent, have a tendency to drag the case to the infinity, and it happens primarily in civil matters or civil proceedings. Further, the object of pleadings is to give a fair chance to each party to ascertain as to what the opponent or the opposite party's case is, to ascertain with precision the points on which the parties agree and those on which they differ. The object thus is to bring the parties to a definite issue. The purpose of pleadings is also to eradicate any irrelevancy. The pleadings should always be drawn up and conducted in such a manner so as to evolve some clear and definite issues, that is, some definite propositions of law and or fact asserted by one party and denied by the other party. Beside the plain and the written statements, which I have already discussed earlier in part 1, other pleadings that may be filed before the court are subsequent pleadings. Subsequent pleadings are defined in Order 8 Rule 9 of CPC, that is Code of Civil Procedure, as amended up to date, and it states that no other pleading subsequent to the written statement of a defendant other than that by way of defense to a plea of set-off or counterclaim can be presented except with the leave of the court and upon such terms as the court may think proper. But the court may at any time require written statement or additional written statement from any of the parties and fix a time of not more than 30 days for presenting the same. The subsequent pleadings include replication filed on behalf of the plaintiff by way of defense to a plea. Now, coming to the term set-off, I will discuss in brief about set-off and also counterclaim. Set-off. Set-off is dealt under Order 8 Rule 6 of CPC, and it is a statutory ground of defense and has to be pleaded in the written statement. An equitable set-off is a claim by the defendant in defense which generally cannot exceed the plaintiff's claim. Set-off is related to debts. It is the reciprocal claim made by the defendant. Set-off can be used only under suit for recovery of money. This can be better understood by an example. Suppose A files a suit against B claiming that the latter owes rupees 2 lakhs due to him, and B also has a claim against A that A owes rupees 50,000 in debt to the former. That is, A is rupees 50,000 in debt of B. Here both are mutually indebted to each other. and they both have to pay off the debts due to each other. Now friends, instead of filing a fresh suit altogether in the court, B files a set off claim along with the written statement in response to the plaint filed by A. Set off should be considered by the court as much as plaint because it too has a subject matter that is in dispute. However, there are certain conditions that have to be met for filing a set off by the defendant. Those conditions are: number one, the suit instituted must be for recovery of money, so set off can be filed only in money suits. Number two, the defendant must claim only the amount that he has already lent to the plaintiff. The defendant cannot claim the money he has not already lent. It means the money should be ascertained. Now I will come to the term counterclaim. Counterclaim is dealt under Order 8, Rule 6A to 6G of the Code of Civil Procedure as amended up to date. It is a claim which is separate and independent from that of the plaintiff. It is also a cross claim, but not necessarily arising out of the same cause of action contained in the plaint. Unlike a set off, a counterclaim need not be mandatorily related to the recovery of money. It could be regarding any civil dispute. The characteristics of counterclaim are as follows. Counterclaim should accompany a written statement. If it is not filed along with the written statement, the court usually does not allow the defendant to file the counterclaim at a later stage. In the suit, if the intention of the defendant is to prolong the proceedings of the suit, nonetheless, the counterclaim can always be filed as a subsequent pleading under Rule 9 of the same order. Number two, it is very important that counterclaim was brought into existence to avoid multiplicity of proceedings, that is multiple court cases, and thereby saving a lot of time of the court. But of late it has been noted that it is more being used as arm twisting tactics of the plaintiff and as a delaying tactics to prolong the adjudication proceedings. These delaying tactics are resorted by the defendant. For example, A files a suit against B and B also wants to file a suit against A for a completely different subject matter. Now instead of filing a separate suit, B makes a counterclaim against A. Here a lot of time is being saved since the counterclaim proceedings are being carried on by the original suit proceedings. It is very important that the counterclaim is treated on par with the plaint and the plaintiff should file a written statement in response to the counterclaim. The court can pronounce final judgment of both the original claim filed by the plaintiff and the counterclaim filed by the defendant simultaneously. Hence, the court may permit the filing of the written statement or an additional written statement from any of the parties, but the court must have to fix an outer limit for presenting the statement, which should not be less than 30 days. Moreover, the power under Order 8, Rule 9 is to be used only in exceptional cases, and such exercise of discretion must be judicial. Thus, it is worthwhile to mention that powers under Order 8, Rule 9 of the CPC are to be exercised by the courts only in cases of set-off or counterclaim and in other exceptional cases, and for the reasons recorded in writing, and cannot be exercised by the defendant as a matter of right. The courts in many instances have observed that the provision of filing additional documents under Order 8, Rule 9 is thus confined to cases where the defendant has asked for a counterclaim or a set-off. It has also been held by the court that if the defendant introduces a new case, it is fair to allow the plaintiff to file his subsequent pleading. Also, it has been laid down by the court that if the plaintiff amends with the leave of the court his plaint, the defendant should be given leave to file a subsequent pleading. Important, please note that subsequent pleadings under Order 8, Rule 9 of CPC should not be confused with the provision for amendment of pleadings. C. Application for amendment of pleadings can be filed by either of the parties if any important fact related to the case could not be put across in pleadings. It is further important to know that this application for amendment of pleadings is allowed by the Honorable Court only if this amendment is necessary to determine the controversy between the parties. Now, respected friends, there are two other important terms with respect to pleadings. Replication. Replication is a pleading by the plaintiff in answer to the defendant's plea, that is written statement or reply. The term replication does not find its place in CPC. However, through various court judgments, it is observed that in certain cases, with the leave of court under section 151 of CPC, the plaintiff has been permitted to file the replication to the written statement filed by the defendant. The other term is rejoinder. Rejoinder is a second pleading by the defendant in answer to the plaintiff's replication. It allows the defendant to present a more responsive and specific statement challenging the allegations made against him or her by the plaintiff. It is further important to note that the court does not compel to file a rejoinder. The subtopic of object of pleading and subsequent pleadings, which included many important terms such as set-off, counterclaim, rejoinder, replication, is now over. It is a bit confusing for law students and even for law interns, as it involves a lot of orders and rules of CPC which are pretty confusing and conflicting also. This ends part 2 of the topic. We will conclude the topic of drafting, pleadings and conveyancing in part 3 of the session. Have a wonderful day ahead. This is Advocate Rahul Mehta signing off from today's session. Thank you very much.